My name is Kevin Turman. I've been in pastoral ministry for 40 years, and I have spent the last 30 years as the pastor of Second Baptist Church of Detroit. And I'm excited to talk with you for just a few minutes about what I think is an exciting instrument for ministry called Babes. As ministers, regardless of our faith group, regardless of our denomination, we all face the challenge of connecting with and guiding young people. The challenge that we face is that our children are going to have to make decisions and address concerns that will have a lasting effect on the rest of their lives. They are going to be wrestling with issues of self-esteem because they're too tall or too short or too fat or too thin, because they wear glasses or can't afford glasses. They're going to have to deal with the issues of peer pressure, because this group is saying you need to do this, but that group is saying nope, you ought to do that. They're going to have to address coping skills, because life has its ups and downs. Life has its arguments and frustrations. And how do you cope with all the different pushes and pulls, particularly when you're a young person? Those of us who have taken psychology classes understand id versus ego and superego, and the desires that come from within and the restraints that we have to pose on those desires in order to function in the larger world. Many of us, at a variety of ages, are caught up in the tug of war between our parents and our friends. Whose advice are we going to take? Between caution and adventure. Who wants to live a boring life? Between church and society. Who is going to have the most important voice? Is it going to be the pastor, the Sunday school teacher, the youth group leader, or is it going to be the movie star, the singer, the person who's making the video? These are the kinds of questions, or at least some of the kinds of questions that our young people are wrestling with. What is sex? It seems to be so important. As they get older, they're going to start feeling urges that they can't quite figure out. Who is going to be there to explain these urges? Who is going to be there to explain behaviors? Why does my mom get so angry? Sometimes children are unfortunately the recipients of anger, whether verbal or physical, that had really nothing to do with them. Who is going to be there to try to help them understand? And so the question that we have as ministers, regardless of our faith background, the question we have is, how do we communicate with children in a language that will engage them and keep their attention, that informs them, that makes them brighter at the end of the session than they were at the beginning of the session, and equips them, gives them tools in order to address those challenges for such weighty issues? I'm not going to presume that there's only one answer to that question, but I want to help you understand that there is at least an answer that can help, and that answer is the Beginning Awareness Basic Education Studies program. We call it BABES. Now, if you are, as I am and have been over the past 4 decades, you are always getting something in the mail. You are always getting something online that is selling itself as the answer you've been looking for, as the program you've been looking for, as the workshop you've been looking for. And so whenever I get such a mailing, such a phone call, such an email, I have to ask myself, what is it anyway? What is this thing? And so I'm sure you're asking, well, what is BABES? May I describe BABES for you then as a multi-level, which simply means that there's a BABES program for 4 and 5-year-olds, or 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, or 9 and 10-year-olds, or 11 through teen years. Each one is different and geared for that age group. It is multi-level, but it is also multi-layered, by which I mean at each of those levels, the young people are going to be discussing, learning, and growing in the areas of coping skills and self-esteem and peer pressure and making right choices. At every single level, there is a curriculum aimed for them to learn how to address those challenges and those choices that we just spoke of. Even though we utilize puppets as a part of the BABES program, I want to make sure you understand that this is an educational platform. It is not a puppet show where the young people are detached and simply watching. This is an educational platform that draws them in, that helps them understand the voices that are going on, the urges that are going on, the conflict that's going on inside their own head. It is a multi-level, multi-layered educational platform that prepares children of all ages for what I call the psychosocial choices, decisions, and outcomes that are going to affect them, that they are going to have to face for the rest of their lives. In some areas, the challenges that they face are going to be psychological. It's going to be, how do I sort this issue out in my head? But in some cases, it's going to be social. Who am I going to befriend? Who am I going to hang with? Who am I going to influence? And who am I going to let influence me? There's the voice of aggression. I'm not going to let anybody push me around. There's the voice of angst or anxiety. There's the voice of passivity. Just let it go. It'll be all right. There's the voice of parental guidance or authoritative guidance. It might be a parent. It might be a grandparent. It's any number of persons who are authorities in our life. Hopefully, the minister is in there somewhere. There's the voice of experience, because somebody experienced being 7 years old and is now trying to tell that 7-year-old how to maneuver through the choices that they are making. Even though it's second grade, there are still life skills to be learned. There's the voice of misinformation and poor information. There's the voice of peer pressure. Come on, who do you think you are? Don't you want to fit in? Don't you want to go along and get along? There's the voice of caution that balances that voice of adventure. On the one hand, there's a part of us that says, if I'm always cautious, I'll be boring. But there's also that voice that says, if I'm always trying to be daring, I might end up dead. These are all voices inside of our heads. These are all ways we are being pushed and pulled. And I have to tell you, you know as well as I do, that these are voices we wrestle with when we're 40 and 50 and 60. We can only imagine how difficult it is to wrestle with those voices when you're only 5 and 6 and 7. The BABES program will result in participants who are better able to make constructive decisions, better able to cope with peer pressure, better able to understand the destructive power of drugs, better able to recognize and respond to mistreatments either within the home or outside of the home, and better able to sort through misinformation regardless of the source of that misinformation. Now, the reason I am confident in being able to make this claim about BABES is that it has been evaluated by the Social Programs Evaluators and Consultants Associates. They took a look at the BABES kindergarten through third grade curriculum, and they have determined that it meets the criteria for being evidence-based as set forth in SAMHSA's National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. After taking a look at the program, at what the children understood, how the children behaved on the other side, the evaluation provided Class A evidence, and the evaluation evidence demonstrated that BABES would receive an outcome evidence rating of effective. So when I say these aspects about the program, I'm not speculating. This is what has been demonstrated. The last of the characters in the BABES World drama is the participants themselves, our children, because this program unlocks what Dr. Lottie Jones Hood calls the magic of the mind. as they think about it, as they imagine these choices, these questions, these decisions, they themselves become a part of the drama. They themselves become a part of the conversation, and they themselves are the beneficiaries of the results. I'm sure you might have some questions about Babe's World, about these programs, and about these figures. I encourage you to take those questions to the website that was just referenced. It is babesworld.org. And there you'll learn about the history. You'll learn that this program is being utilized all over the country and all over the world. I believe that you will find it, as we have found it at Second Baptist Church, to be an excellent instrument of education, preparation, and training for our young people to face the challenges they are going to face for the rest of their lives. I thank you very much for your attention. God bless you.